Good morning, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Tech Talk Live number 103. This week we are joined by Michael Suzuki and Andy Hind, who are going to be talking about search services. I do have a few announcements that I want to go ahead and kick off the event with. So at the end of the month, our office hours session on March 30th is going to be a big one. This is going to be our product roadmap call with Thomas DeMeo and Richard Esplin. So it's definitely one you want to attend. It's the same time, so it's 10 a.m. Eastern time. And it'll be, again, hosted on YouTube Live. If you have questions in advance, you can email those to Francesco or myself. Just email us directly and we'll put together a list to get to them in advance. They will take questions at the session, but with a roadmap call, it may be easier to have some questions beforehand so they can prepare. Additionally, if you haven't heard about Beacon yet, we've been pushing it. It was a topic on our last office hours before last. It's going to be in April. It's the 25th through the 28th. It's going to be in Zaragoza, Spain. It's about 250 is the estimated attendance of Alfresco experts, advocates. It's a mix of our company and the community at large. It's actually put on by the Order of the Bee, who are an independent group who are just a group that supports Alfresco and people that are interested in the product and experts in the product. So we'd love to have you there. The early bird registration is open until March 19th, so you should go ahead and register and start planning your travel. I'd like to let our guest kind of introduce themselves today. Of course, Francesco is here, our developer evangelist. I'll let you say hello as well.
Hi, everyone. I'm Francesco, product evangelist. I'm happy to be here.
Hi, I'm Andy Hind. I'm a founding engineer and I'm the architect of search and discovery.
Hello, I'm Michael Suzuki. I'm part of the search and discovery team.
I did have one thing that I missed, of course. I run through my announcements and then I always look down at my notes and go, there's that thing. So we have a ton of new content on the community. If you haven't checked out community.alfresco.com, it is our social community for technical know-how conversations amongst we have our own staff there and we have a lot of community members there. It's a great place to get information, to get started with Alfresco or activity and get any questions you may have answered. So we have a ton of new resources in the ADF section. If you want to check that out, there's a new tutorial, a new Get Started page, lots and lots of new information. Thank you, Francesco. And if you check out our main website, you may notice quite a few differences on there as well. And we'd love to hear some feedback from you guys on that. So that being said, we have a lot of things to cover today. So I'm going to hand it over to Michael.
Thank you. Right, let's share my screen. Can everyone see the presentation all right?
Yes, it's fine.
Good. So let's start. So today I'd like to talk about some of the things that have been going on in the search services team and just in general what's been going on in Alfresco with search over the past year. So the first thing is we have a team now. In the past it used to be a small team of Andy, then Joel joined, but now we actually have a proper team which includes Harry Peake, our product manager, Andy Hind, who introduced himself earlier, Joel Bernstein, who is a Solr committer and an Alfrescan, Gethin James, most of you recognize the name, has been with us for many years, and myself, and we make up now a team. Now, more importantly, what's changed over the last year within our search services? So first, we've gone up to Solr 6, and with Solr 6, we have some key changes. They've moved to Jetty-based, which includes new layout changes, and they've also included test framework, which we're now doing far more testing. So our unit tests coverage of the changes and development we do is easily unit tested via the test framework that comes with Solr 6. The other big change is we've moved away from SVN and we've gone to Git. And I'll come back to this later on, but one of the ideas behind this is we wanted to make it easy and simple for people to contribute back as well. And finally, we also provide Docker packaging now. So with these three major changes in mind, we're bringing our development, making development simpler and easier and faster to do. And these 3 key steps has allowed us to do that. Now, as far as the new features, we've introduced sharding, search highlighting, MultiSelect faceting, category faceting, fingerprint, version store indexed, and one of the things I'm quite excited about is the REST API endpoint. So now we can leverage the REST API to get all of these queries back and the results back. And today's demo will probably cover most of these features and also the REST API. So moving on to some of the improvements we've made. So with Solr 6, we've done a lot of work on the performance, and a lot of the learnings that we've done from the 1 billion document load that we've done, I think, a half year ago, if I'm correct. Is that right, Andy? I'll take that side.
Caught me on the hop, yeah. It's just over a year ago that we did all that stuff.
So a lot of the learnings that we've learned from that experience has now been introduced into the product, and we've improved. And as a result, the performance is now greater and better, and obviously scalability of the product is now also improved greatly. In addition, we've done a lot of bug fixes, and so you would see an improvement in logging, and there's been a few issues in the admin UI, which we've also fixed, and one of the key memorable notes that we can do now, which is managing shard via SSL, which in the past we couldn't. So a lot of performance improvements, bug fixes have gone in with the new Solr 6, and without wasting any more time, let's get into the interesting part, which why we're here. So in today's demo, I'm hoping to cover some of the basics, how to set up Solr 6 with Alfresco 5.2. Then we'll also see some of the new features of how we can do sharding, and hopefully we might cover most of these, time permitted. And by all means, if I'm going too fast, or if I miss something, or if something's not clear, please feel free to stop me, ask questions, and as we'll be covering quite a bit, so they'll be relevant to the areas that we're looking at. If it's generic questions that we want to know about certain things that not something that we've covered in the PowerPoint or in our demo, we'll do a Q&A at the end of the talk. So I think we'll try and start the demo, and hopefully things will go according to plan. So first thing, I have an Alfresco 5.2 already installed, so it would save some time. Not sure if it's running. So first thing I'll do is check if it's all up and running. Just use that one. So is that doing anything? Okay, it's running. Second thing to check is Solr running. Solr isn't running, perfect. So I've installed Alfresco 5.2 using the installer. And one of the first changes you'll notice with Solr 6 is that it's a Jetty file, so it's an embedded application, and we ship it as a package. So if can everyone see this? Hopefully, I'll just increase the font. So this is your directory structure after you install Alfresco, and you'd see there's a Solr 4, and all I've done is downloaded a Solr 6 zip file and unzipped it here. And first thing you would do is start Solr 6, and Solr 6 now starts with an easy command. I've already moved into this directory, so sorry. Let's make the font a bit bigger. So we're in Solr home. We are within the Alfresco installation directory. what we'll do is simply start it. So start. So as you can see here, the normal command is Solr bin Solr start. That will start Solr. We'll do that for now, and just show you how easy and simple it is to start Solr. So one of the key benefits of making our life easier and development easier is just the ability of separating Solr from Alfresco. So now, back in the days when we used to start it with Tomcat, we had to wait quite a bit, but as you can see, it's already running. And that just saves us so much time and effort. But what we want to do is we want to stop that now and start it again. As you notice, we don't have any chords. And one of the changes with Solr 6 is we need to create the chords. So while that is trying to stop, does anyone have any questions so far?
We have some questions, but probably for the end of the presentation. So thank you, Michael. You can go ahead covering all the technical stuff at the moment.
We could probably cover one while this is doing, but luckily it stopped in time, so we can start. So we're going to start again, and this time we're going to tell it to start, and we're going to give it a parameter to tell it to create some chords. And we can create the Alfresco and archive core. And as you can see, this will probably take 5 seconds, and we can have a look here and see. I knew I should have sacrificed something for the demo gods. Or I should be more patient with my environment, as it's a laptop struggling for memory and CPU. But back to the demo, we have now created the Alfresco core in the archive, and we're good to go. And the mistake I've done again is not show this page. When you show this page, it tends to start with 71 bytes. But with the improvements that's been done to the trackers and the metadata tracker and content trackers, this is now completely indexed and caught up with all the things that it needed to index. So if we go to Alfresco now, we'll start with the admin UI and see which system we're using. We're using Solr 6 already. To change it between Solr 6 and Solr 4 is very easy. All you do is go into the search service and then change the subsystem to the one that you would like to use. So at the moment, we can see that we're also running Solr 4 in the background. But that needs SSL, as that tends to be the behavior coming out of the installer. Oops. So to switch from Solr 4 to Solr 6, we'll go select the Solr 6, make sure the port's the right one. Solr starts with 8983, but you can also tell it what port to run it on if you want to. So we're going to save that. And now we can check that it can see login as admin, and just verify that we can search something in Solr 6. Double check that it is on Solr 6. Yes, that is green. And while Share is logging in, what I might do is create another instance of Solr. So I've copied that same directory and created a copy of it, and it's called Solr 6.2. So earlier, I showed you the directory of Alfresco. We have Solr 4, I've created Solr 6 and Solr 6.2. So I'll go into Solr 6.2, and we'll just start this one. And I think I'm going to start on port 8984, as we already have Solr running on 8983. So we seem to have logged in. We'll just type in some search, and that should bring back results back, hopefully sometime soon. In the meantime, what we can do is have a look at 8984. Yes, there's one thing that I've left behind from my previous demo, but we'll just ignore that. And here's the first failure. But we'll just have a quick look and see what's happening. And just have a look at the logs. HTTP client connection. While I'm typing, if anyone has a question.
That's fine.
That sounded promising. Just double check one thing. Let's open Alfresco Global.
So Michael, while you're doing that, I'll answer the question that was raised in the background, which I think is addressing why there are new features in Solr 6 that are not exposed in Share. So I'm going to answer several questions. So the first one is Solr 4 versus Solr 6. It might be more interesting to work out with a parity between them. So we have added some things to Solr 4 to create some equality with Solr 6. So things like highlighting, for example, will work with both in Share, and they have been added. But we've also got some other new stuff in Solr 6 that's not exposed in Share, and there's no problem with that in my view. We're developing a platform API, and Share is one client of that API. There can be many clients of that API, and the ADF, which has been discussed on other occasions, is one of those clients, and it's up to other people who develop their own standalone applications. So the API is there for everybody, and it's not just there when stuff is needed in Share. And the repository and Share have been decoupled for a while, and I think that kind of reflects where we are in that. And we may well be in a position at some point to decouple our Solr API completely, our search API completely, and be able to move forward with a different API and extend that API and leave Alfresco where it is. It depends on where we get in the componentization part of the search and discovery story. So I think it's a great thing that we're not coupled together and we're moving forward with the API that everybody can use.
Another question waiting for Michael. Please stop us when you want to go ahead, of course. Another question we could try to answer, Andy, could be about clustering and multiple instances of Solr. I try to read the question because probably there are some details we should discuss. When you add 2 instances of Solr 6, does it come into cluster or we need to take care of it?
So that is one of the things that distinguishes community from enterprise, really. It depends why you're adding that Solr 6 instance in there. So if your second instance of search services is to support high availability, it's just a replica, then you probably want to add your own load balancing layer and take care of that yourself. If you are doing it to create sharding, then you can't actually have a repository that's clustered in the community world, and we make use of some of the features in enterprise to do the dynamic shard and index clustering stuff that's available in the enterprise product. So the answer is it's possible in community to define all that stuff in the configuration. I wouldn't say it's easy or trivial, but it is possible to set that stuff up. But the dynamic clustering stuff is part of the enterprise world and not part of the community world, you need an appropriate license for that one. I hope that answers the question.
Let's ask directly to Sujay that he raised the question. At the moment on the RC, no reply. In any case, we will wait for it. If I'm not wrong, Andy, also the panel that Michael was showing. Okay, yes, you answered to the question. Thank you, Sujay. If I'm not wrong, also the panel Michael show, it's in the Enterprise Edition only. I'm right or wrong?
So
yes.
So there are two panels. There's one that shows the Solr 4 and the Solr 6 individual search subsystems. So those are available in all enterprise versions. The sharding one is not available in all with all licenses, but the whole admin experience is enterprise only on there. So in the community side, you can do all of the things you can do in there via configuration and JMX rather than with those things to help you.
Okay, nice. Michael, do you think we can go ahead with the question?
So what we're going to do is we're going to do a slight change of plan. We're going to do things backwards. And what we're going to do is we're going to spend a bit more time looking at the API Explorer and look at the features and functionality that you can use to query and find the content that you want. And then at the end, we'll try again to do the demo and see what how we can configure it. So the reason why I want to do it this way around, and I was hoping to have basically 5 instances of Solr running, and the key thing for me is not to lose the data that I've prepared for it. So I was hoping to create another set of Solr instances, but unfortunately, they don't seem to be happy playing together. So to just make life simple, I'm starting over. We're just going to start with the one which has the data. Hopefully the data is still there, and I didn't delete it by accident. So what we have is, again, a Solr running with Alfresco. We've seen this earlier. It has some data. And let's see if Alfresco is up and running. And while that's warming up, you can see I'm actually running my local dev environment of Alfresco. And you can do this with installer or anything, but it just shows you how flexible you can interchange Solr in the background. So Solr is running on 8983. I think Alfresco is nearly there. I'm also running Alfresco with share.
Michael, other questions similar to the ones raised in the meetup about Jetty as application server. So it is recommended, and of course, and another question is which is the upgrading procedure from Solr 4 to Solr 6?
So why Jetty? That was pretty much out of our hands. The Apache Solr community and the packaging they offer now has gone down the route of Jetty. So we've pretty much taken that on board as well and worked with that. So they had their reasoning probably for it, but from our experience working with Jetty has been a favorable and positive experience, so we're quite happy with it. And in terms of the upgrade passage, I believe it's the same as Solr 1 to Solr 4. You'd have Solr 4 running in the background while Solr 6 catches up on the index. Is that correct, Andy?
Yeah, the upgrade procedure is pretty much in principle exactly what you would have done to go from Solr 1 to Solr 4. 4 to 6 is the same. You can have them both coexist and switch over when you're happy, in general.
That's the one I want. Let me just tidy up some of these screens. So a bit about the API Explorer while that's coming up. I think Gavin has had a few tech talks and a few slides about this. What is new for us in terms of the API Explorer is now we have a new endpoint for search. And very much like what Gavin's demo, we have it all documented in Swagger. The only difference is we only have one endpoint, which is the search endpoint. So today we're going to use this to query and get some results back from Solr. Just want to double check everything's working. So this is the search that we've done earlier, literally a couple seconds ago. Normally it's faster, but as you can hear, my laptop fan is screaming. So it is a tad slower by a second. But you can see we have highlighting and it's showing us the search term, and we can see it returning results. So I think we're good to start the demo. And going back to the API Explorer, there we go, finally. So very simple, we just click on the search API, and then we have some samples of how we can do things and how we can query and what response do we expect. So if we just put this in here, we should get something back. And as you can see, there's quite a lot of things we can do with this API, and these are all the possible things we can query and get back. So we'll just try to go through some of them and we'll see how it goes. So if we just paste it in here, maybe I'll make this a bit bigger so you can see. That's kind of the JSON structure we want, and we should get some results back. But so again, it provides you a curl, so you can do it from the command line, and the response body, which is what I'm interested in. So looking at this, the first thing I notice is that we're getting something back. Unfortunately, we're not getting anything useful for us at the moment, because we're not getting any response or values back in terms of entries, which is what we're looking for. So based on this, we don't have anything in the index that's to do with foo. But if we change that to Ipsen, which we know because I've searched Ipsen here, so we should get something back. Maybe I should close some of these screens. Then we should expect at least a couple of entries. So we've done the query, and this is the response body now for that query. And yes, we can see that we have data coming back. So we have an entry for a document that Mike Jackson's created a PowerPoint, and we all know Mike Jackson now is Beecher, so this is the document that's as part of the demo that comes with Alfresco. So we can see this is basically now a sample of a basic search. So now that we've covered...
We have a couple of questions. One is related to the future. I mean, in YouTube chat, Christian is asking which are the plan with the new version of the future version of Solr, or the new version of Solr. For example, do you plan to follow the Solr 6.4, or if you already know, or if you plan to do it? What about this?
Yeah, we can come back to this at the end, because this is definitely something for the future. But yeah, we want to be as close as possible to a version of Solr that we feel comfortable using. So in the future, we definitely want to upgrade to a later version.
And another question, if you think or plan to have a GraphQL support or not. This is from the IRC channel.
Yeah, we would love that. Don't we, Andy?
I was deliberately not going to comment on the roadmap, but obviously Solr 4 and Solr 6.4 and more interesting 6.5 come with things that we are interested in. Exactly what gets exposed when depends on the product manager's opinion and the product owner's opinion, and not necessarily mine. But we are looking to expose some more interesting things in more interesting ways. There are other features in there like SQL access and other things. Whether GraphQL is the most interesting thing we could expose, I don't know. It's certainly an interesting thing. But there are other things in 6.5 to do with significant terms, akin to what Elasticsearch do. There's a plethora of things. It would take us some work to get GraphQL and the whole streaming framework working, but that's certainly something that we have on our minds.
For sure, it's an interest.
Yes, definitely.
Okay.
So going back to our demo, we've covered now basic search. So we can try maybe doing a highlighting as we've seen earlier. So I will look for a sample of the highlight here. I'm sure I've seen a highlight example. But if not, I have one prepared just in case, because I'm very forgetful in that way. And yes, we have one here. So if we cut and paste this, we should expect to see. So we're querying on the description that has workflow, and what we want to do is prefix it with these. So that's where we know that it's highlighted, and what it tells us that's how we can then notify it's the highlight. So we're doing the response. We can see in the response, and we can see over here the sample of the workflow being highlighted. So when we look in the UI, that would be a helper to kind of say to highlight that. And over here, we're seeing it in different annotation, and that's because we've asked for it to be prefixed.
So Michael, I was just going to point out that that response is exactly the same as the kind of response we get in other parts of the public API where we list folders, for example. And we have got kind of like one extra bit of decoration in a search bucket to add our search-specific stuff in there. Otherwise, if you've written a client that will read the results of folder listings, it will take the results of search as well.
Yeah. Cool. So any questions on that? If not, we can try to move on to other more complicated search.
One question is partially related to this, but another question, lots of questions, as you can see, this is means interest, of course, from the IC channel. How can we do if we want to execute the same query from the Solr admin panel? I don't know why you want to do a query from the Solr admin, but if you want, so the question is, how can you do to do the same query in a Solr admin panel?
So if you want to query this from the Solr admin panel, you pretty much go into, whoops, sorry, wrong one. Go into Solr, you'd select the Alfresco core, and you'd go to the query. And one of the benefits of this is that you can actually see how you're querying, what you're querying, and so at the simple query to bring everything back, you'd see the responses, and that's how everything is displayed on the Solr side. So from the API side, it's a bit more verbose. You can actually see the documents, you can see the names and the content model, and something that's quite more useful for you. We tend to use this so we can query things quickly. So if we want to do CM content Ipsum, that's kind of like what we've done earlier with the basic search, and that's what he gets back, which for us is valuable, but I think for people who do it through this will find it easier. We did it that way again. People find it probably easier seeing what they're getting back, as would be with additional content that represents the document. So you'd have Mike Jackson as the author, what documents, and some of the text and the content. So hopefully that helps. Yeah.
Yes. Let's ask to.
You can do it both. You can do it both ways. Obviously, there's benefits of doing one way or the other, and so if people want to do it, they can by all means go directly and start querying it here using this, which is given from Solr. But the Alfresco API, now you can do quite a lot of things and get great response back and the queries back with results that are relevant. So both ways. So we're spoiled for choice.
So Sujay shared that you replied to his question, and thank you for that. In the meantime, welcome to Harry Peak, product manager of the team and the search. Hi, Harry, how are you doing?
Very good, thanks, Francesco.
Okay, welcome here with us. Sorry, Michael, to interrupt you just for a greeting with Harry.
Absolutely acceptable. We couldn't do without that. So, right, we've covered now basic search and various ways of doing it. We've looked at highlighting. I think multi-select faceting is something that's also quite interesting to look at and key. We can use some of the samples here, but I have created some additional ones that I might go with that one first. And so this is a simple one I created, which I am gonna let. So basically, I'm querying for everything, but I'm creating these facets and I'm labeling them for content that was created this year and content that was created last year. As I know that I've installed this today, there won't be any content from last year, so I'll expect to see a 0 count on returning from this query. And while this one should return pretty much around 800, I think. Give it a go. And we're saying the pagination details, and then here we're seeing the facet query, last year 0. Oh, I was mistaken, we only have 705 for this year. And then you have the entry. So that's one simple one. There's another way, another multi-select faceting sample I have here that we can go over. So here we're creating, we have the facet fields, so we have the creators and the modifiers, and we also have the filter queries where we just see how many that Mike Jackson's created or modified, and we're excluding that from these filters so we can see the total of how many everyone has written in the facet. I think this will be clear if I demo it. So if we look at the facet fields, we have here the creators. So we have how many Michael Jackson. If you're friends with him, he will allow you to call him Michael, or it's M Jackson. We have system. We have some random users, another random user, and Alice feature and admin. So we see the full faceting of the buckets there, and then we have the buckets of the modifier as well, and then the entry list. So as you can see, there's some really powerful, useful things we can do with a multi-select faceting now. And the other thing I wanted to touch upon is category and fingerprint. I don't know if we have enough time to do both of them. We'll give it a go. Let's see, category. So for this exercise, I've created and prepared the data prior to this. So I'll just go to the admin tools. I've created a new category in Alfresco using the category manager, and I've called it, that's strange. I'm sure I've created a new category. So I've created a new category called animal. Maybe I won't do categories. I don't think the categories are happy with me today.
So if you want to check, we have another question from the RC channel. If you plan to allow some kinds of controls about the content cache, do you have or do you plan to have some control cache around this sort of stuff?
Okay, so do we have in the product? The answer is no. Do we plan to have? The answer is yes. We're going to consider kind of like how we use the content cache and what we put in there. So it performs several useful functions. It's there to enable highlighting. It's there to enable rebuilding of the index, and it actually in Solr 6 allows us to is the basis for us doing some much improved concurrency in the background tracking, which we're not going to cover today. But yes, we are going to review how we use that. Some people have had issues with the number of inodes that it generates. Why that would be any different from the Alfresco repository and its generation of the content store, I don't know. They should roughly be the same, as they contain the same number of bits of content. Perhaps we're creating more folders than we imagined or something, but we do intend to address those issues. Yeah.
Guys, I think that oh, sorry. We are receiving lots of questions. There is a huge interest in the RC. Another question about caching. So when searching for nodes with lots of metadata, and we are using the REST API in the way that Michael was showing, specifying a subset of properties. So does it still blow up the property cache with metadata we didn't ask for, or it select the precise number of metadata we asked for?
So I will answer that question. So what happens when you traverse a result set is it bulk fetches the nodes and the properties and the aspects of the nodes you go and look at as you traverse. So this depends on how many things you actually have pulled back ever into your cache. So if you pull back 1 million things in your result set, then yes, it will possibly blow it out. If you pull back 3, the answer is how can it? There's only 3 in there that it pulls back in the result set. So it depends on how it scans through 6 now things. So Solr 6, it's doing permission evaluation on the query side as it is with Solr 4. So it doesn't pull them back to do a scan through the result set to decide how many to pull back, for example. It's only doing it on how many you asked it for. So if you ask for a particular page size, then that will be what hits your cache. Unless you've got some other reason for asking that question, you know, you're going to pull the transactional bit of that cache may well be filled depending on how many things come back in your results set, I guess.
Okay, thank you. We have a couple of more questions, but Michael, do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, let's go ahead. And we have just 2 more topics that we want to cover, which is faceting on categories. So I've basically ran a test case that I have here that just loads data, and we have a few files, and we're just going to facet on categories, and we can see turn results based on categories as well. The last thing I wanted to show you guys is the fingerprint, which is something that we haven't covered, and we'll probably have some more information coming in the form of maybe blogs, but just to touch upon it now, I've created a couple of documents you've seen earlier. So I have a panogram, which is the content of it is the quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog. And I've created a few similar files and just replaced it with some other one, banana. And as you can tell, these files are very similar. And what we have now is something called fingerprinting, which helps us find things that are almost similar or identical. And the key to this, you just need to give it the node ref and where we go, is that it? We'll just get the node ref out of it, and we should be able to see how similar it is and what it's similar to. And that should bring back all those files that we've seen earlier, or not. Knew I should have sacrificed something today.
Michael, just quote it. You've got minuses in there that will be taken by the query language.
Sorry?
The actual string you've got in there needs to be quoted because it's got minuses in it. It will be treated as not.
You mean like this?
Well, you have to quote it in a way that is okay for JSON, whatever that is.
That normally works. What minus do you see?
Well, the minus is between it. You can put the DB ID in there, or the UUID, or the node ref itself.
That was
the bit after the fingerprint has to be quoted. Otherwise, it will treat it as just a running query language. You've got that.
So not all of this. Go back to that. See if we can. Well, we might leave it at this point then, if this doesn't.
You just need to backslash escape it, I think.
So I'm getting the UUID from this.
Yeah.
And I need to back.
Then you need to put quotes around that bit in the query language. So after the semicolon, you need backslash quote. So after the colon there, you need backslash quote. Backslash. Yeah. No, backslash quote.
Backslash.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah, and you need that on the end as well. I believe so.
I don't remember doing it that way, but we'll have to come back to that one. It was working earlier, but the problem, the demo gods aren't with me today, trying to change too many things on the go. But essentially, what we get here is documents that are near match to that, and I might try to give it another go, since it would be a shame not to show this new feature because it's a lovely feature. But yeah,
Michael, we have a question that probably Harry can help. And again, having Harry here is a great thing, because there is one question from the RC channel asking if we will have difference, if you can tell us more about the differences between the enterprise and community version in the search product.
Yeah, great question. So the new search services artifacts we've just brought out applies to both community and enterprise. We currently don't have plans to have enterprise-only search features, with the exception, I suppose, of you do need clustering licenses and stuff like that to make use of dynamic sharding. But beyond that, there aren't search features we're particularly looking to make enterprise only. However, we probably will be building on that to do more with analytics, hopefully starting later in the year, and some of that is likely to be enterprise only.
Thank you very much, Harry, because lots of interest around the roadmap, of course, and the Search Solr, because it is hugely attended, this Tech Talk Live. A more technical question, and probably Andy or Michael could help us, is about are we giving some kind of support for schema extension? For example, the custom metadata fields similar to the site metadata field or any other custom fields?
I don't think there is any plan to add generic support for that. It has been on the backlog actually for a couple of years, surprisingly, but there hasn't been much demand or people asking to do that, and so we haven't done it. So if there's actually a use case that applies to enough people, I guess we would reconsider where that lives in the product. Yeah, in the end, there's always a way you can get around this. So if you want to put a specific feature in the index, you can always go and add a property or an aspect with a definition for a property that encapsulates what you want to add in there, and you can fill it by behavior or whatever you like, and then that will get indexed and added to the index anyway. So there is a question about kind of what functionality you are achieving over and above what we could do anyway.
Okay, no more question. Please let us know from the RC channel if you are happy with both the question about the differentiation between the enterprise community and the schema extension. Michael, do you want to take again the control, or?
I think we'll leave it for now today. I think my environment is now getting completely grinded to a whole by all the things I'm doing to it. So what we'll probably do is we'll probably document more about it and show you samples of how you can use fingerprinting and some of the other samples that, if people are interested, do please mention to us what you're keen to see more of, how to do. And if we haven't covered it today, then we can go ahead and cover that.
We have, so first of all, thank you, because you can feel probably counting the numbers of interaction that I gave you. So it has been a huge proof for Michael too, that is showing the hacking and reply to my question. We have one question more from the IC channel about one direct question. Where is the Docker part? So
yes, the Docker part is within the GitHub. So if I share the screen one last time, I would just like to bring your attention to contributing back. So all our stuff is now in GitHub. Can you guys see this all right?
Yes.
Going back between the PowerPoints sometimes throws off the screen. So yeah, so completely forgot about this. Thanks for reminding me. Yes, we have all our stuff now on GitHub. And under the Alfresco search services, you will also have a section which is to do with Docker. So there's documentation there, a README note that will tell you how to Dockerize it, and that should create the Docker image for you. So yeah, all of it is in there. Finally, some keynotes that to do with benchmarking results that we've done. So we've done a small exercise of loading 50 million documents, and the data we got out of it was quite positive. We have an indexing rate of 85 documents per second and a catch-up index rate of 550 documents per second. So a catch-up index rate is basically, we've loaded all the 50 million documents, and then we just deleted Solr and then re-indexed it. So the speed of that was 550 documents per second. And one of the surprising things that came out of it is the index size and the content store size was 382 gigabytes, and that was a lot smaller than what we anticipated. So not only is it faster, it's also smaller now. So some positive benchmarking results that we've uncovered. Yes, that's it. Thank you. And I do apologize that not all the demo went, but if you're still interested in seeing how that works, just do let us know.
First of all, thank you, Michael. Another last question, probably it's a detail, but not exactly detail. Any chance for sharing the doc internal alfresco.com latest Docker file in public?
No, we don't do that, but it's that easy to create images, so it's all there. Okay,
thank you again for your demonstration. what I'm feeling is that there is a huge interest around the search stuff, and probably could be an idea also to repeat another Tech Talk Live, because there is a request of more information around the search service, and of course we can imagine this. Harry, we have had lots of interesting questions around the roadmap. One of them you replied, another is about the decision of integrating some search capabilities inside the search engine instead of integrating in Share, for example. Do you have any comments or thoughts to share about the roadmap, or because what you anticipated in your last contribution, it has been very interesting and attractive for the people, of course. If you have some other information or something we would like to share now, I don't know if it's the right time, of course, but if you have something to share.
I mean, I think we're not quite at a point where we're ready to sort of announce releases and stuff like that. But I think one of the reasons we've been communicating about why getting to Solr 6 was important is because of the stuff we can utilize for analytics, which I touched on earlier. And that's really where we're shifting focus as a team, is to start looking again at reporting analytics, which has always been very important to Alfresco. But it hasn't had so much attention in the last year or so. So we want to switch back to that. I think initially we're going to be targeting what we're calling a kind of basic content reporting. So what's going on around the content within your repository. Same sort of thing for process. We are very much looking across the whole digital business platform and not just at the content side. Also looking at RM and usage stuff. But I'd like to sort of clarify that we're in the middle of doing some customer validation at the moment and trying to talk to as many people as possible. So if anybody listening has got a particular interest in analytics or reporting, you've got requirements you'd like to get to me, I would love to talk to you about that and go into a bit more detail.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, because it's something that we were waiting for. And another question that Andy gives us support is also about following the latest version of search services, of Solr. So what happens with the newest version 6.4, and again, if we will follow, of course, the various versions.
Do you want me to answer that again? So there's two comments. So I think Solr 6 we will keep up with. What the release vehicle would be for a search services to deliver, maybe not in sync with Alfresco content services, is a good question, and I don't think we've answered that one. But we do intend to move forward with that. Solr 7 is on the horizon. I'm surprised nobody's asked about that. And Solr 8 will be somewhere along the line afterwards. And yes, we do need to keep up. Those bigger versions we have to take more care over, because the index is not necessarily compatible and other incompatible changes take place. And we have the version 2 of the Solr API to look forward to in Solr 7. So yes, we do have an eye on those things, and we look, and obviously it takes some technical effort to put Solr 7 in there. It will happen. We're going to be much more up to date with that stuff than we have been, I guess, historically. And when they technically make sense to deliver features that you want to do, that's when it's going to happen.
Just to add on a non-related topic, I got it to work now. So fingerprinting does work, but typically the demo's ended. So if you do want to see it, just ping us.
No, if you do you think you require? Okay, if you require more minutes, you can go ahead. Huh?
Perfect. So I was querying on the wrong thing, maybe. Right. So going back, refreshing your mind, fingerprinting, it's about finding something similar. So documents, this uniqueness, you can bring it back. So we had the following documents. They're all very much similar in their content. all about the fox jumping over a lazy cat, dog, or banana. And that is the query for fingerprinting. Please work. Oh, thank God for that. It works. So we get the results back, and as you can see, we have a score of how likely it is, the details about the user. We have the documents, so we have the cat, panagram cat, and panagram taco. So these two documents are very similar, and you can also adjust like the percentile of how similar you want it to look by. And so if it's a 50-50%, that should bring something back as well. So we have one score for panagram cat again, and one for taco, because they're very similar documents. And that's the fingerprinting. So I shall try to stop sharing the screen. And that concludes our demo.
Thank you, Michael. That was awesome. Thanks for going over too, and thanks for anybody that was able to stay for the little bit of extra time. Like we said, super popular topic, lots of questions. Feel free to post any questions we may not have gotten to or that you had after the event. Go ahead and post them in the Jive community, and we'll pass them through the team and get some feedback for you. Just a reminder, again, at the end of the month, we have a roadmap call with Thomas DeMeo and Richard Esplin. And then the registration for Beacon, the early bird special pricing, ends on March 19th. So if you're planning on going, go ahead and register and take advantage of that discount. Again, thanks everybody for coming to Tech Talk Live. We will see you in 2 weeks for office hours.
Thank you,
Thanks, guys, for joining us.
Cheers.